At Shangjiang City First Middle School, everyone's lined up for the annual talent awakening when the proctor calls up the next student, Anbai. Anbai steps up and places his hand on the stone pillar to test his magical potential. The pillar flashes green, revealing a wildly mid-score of 3.1 mage. The proctor announces his massive 3.1 mage rating out loud for the whole crowd to hear. The peanut gallery immediately starts cooking him, baffled at how a broke guy with barely passing stats scored a top-tier girlfriend with a score over 9. His girlfriend, Lu Ruyan, tries to soften the blow by flexing her 9.6 score and promising to protect him from now on. Anbai stays completely unbothered, telling her she really doesn't need to stress over him. In reality, he's just relieved he awakened anything at all instead of living as an ordinary NPC forever. 18 years ago, he transmigrated into this disaster of a world that was actively getting invaded by demons and fierce beasts. 90% of the human population got wiped out almost immediately, forcing the survivors into cramped city-states. To help them survive, the world itself granted humanity a system that lets everyone unlock a professional class talent. These professionals are split into 6 basic roles: warrior, mage, priest, archer, beast tamer, and support. Talent is graded on a scale of 1 to 10. A score of 3 is the absolute bare minimum to enter a class, 6 gets you high-tier job transfers, and anything above 9 makes you a mythic level god. Unfortunately for Anbai, his performance at the shooting range proved his talent barely qualifies him for the absolute most generic mage class. Forget becoming an apocalyptic archmage, he doesn't even have the output to be a proper mob grinder. Seeing his trash results, the girl tells him he'd be better off switching to a support class and running her logistics instead. Anbai casually drops that he's locking in the mage class anyway, leaving her completely baffled. Meanwhile, the rest of the class is already cackling at everyone else's tragic results. As Anbai wonders if buying a new staff would fix his luck, she warns him that throwing away the chance to be her support means he's strictly on his own. Inside the class transfer hall, the instructor hits him with a reality check, asking if he's genuinely sure about this. He points out that as a broke orphan with a tragic 3.1 score, no faction is ever going to sponsor his mage build. Anbai fully admits his talent score is absolute garbage, but he still refuses to back down. Because despite the terrible stats, he's still clinging to one final ray of hope. The system prompts that activation requires completing a class transfer, so Anbai locks in his choice and tells Teacher Wang he's transferring into a mage. Teacher Wang gives a tired hand wave, telling him to step into the transfer array and accept the energy baptism. Watching him walk into the portal, the teacher sighs over yet another youth making questionable life choices. Anbai stands in the center, as magical runes light up and raw energy surges all around him. Teacher Wang snaps back in absolute disbelief as the magic array reacts violently. The system confirms the class transfer is successful, officially making him a magic apprentice. He instantly unlocks his starting skill, Basic Fireball. Teacher Wang just sighs in disappointment, noting that a basic apprentice doesn't even count as a real mage. Rather than sulking over Teacher Wang's trash talk, he gets insanely hyped as a golden spell card bursts forth surrounded by glowing energy chains. Right after his class transfer, the system finally kicks in, binding the skill affix system to him. Turns out, every time he levels up, he gets a draw to pull an affix that buffs any skill, so he doesn't hesitate for even a second and instantly hits draw. Gotcha luck comes through on the very first pull, landing him a golden legendary skill affix, Explosion. In this world, affixes are usually reserved for equipment, but his system lets him attach them directly to his active skills. Item rarity scales from basic common white all the way up to legendary gold, meaning he just hit the jackpot on turn 1 with an affix that boosts damage up to 100 times. Since Fireball is currently his only offensive spell, he slams the explosion affix straight into it. 100-fold damage multiplier is insane, and he needs to test it immediately. Anbai heads straight for the school's back mountain. After asking around back at school, turns out there's a novice trial ground hidden in the back mountain. The onlookers are completely stunned to see Anbai actually turn up as a mage, trash-talking his audacity, and assuming he'll just end up leeching off Lu Ruyan. Word on the street is that the monsters in these back mountains were all rounded up by the teachers, so nothing here should be above level 5. Suddenly, Lu Ruyan extended her staff toward Anbai. Anbai collapsed as Lu Ruyan pretended that she had only just noticed him. Lu Ruyan tries to flex her tier 3 ice mage status, offering to carry him and split the experience, but Anbai hits her with a crisp, "Me? Not at all." When Lu Rian questions why he ran straight toward her if he didn't need help, Anbai drops a deadpan reality check. She was simply blocking the entrance. Utterly humiliated, Lu Rian seethes in rage, panicking over how this ruins her fake public image of being a loving partner. Teacher Wang hits him with the mandatory safety talk, reminding him not to ruin the school's pristine zero-death streak inside the dungeon. Anbai politely nods and thanks him for the heads-up. Watching him head in, Teacher Wang internally sighs. He intentionally hid the existence of these trial grounds from the kid, yet he still somehow speed-ran his way here anyway. Anbai teleports straight into the forest zone, stepping out of a glowing magic circle ready for action. Right on cue, a level 1 mutated rabbit spawns in with 80 HP, 5 ATK, and 3 DF. He remembers this thing used to be a harmless local animal before otherworldly aura turned it into a hyper-aggressive monster. Choosing violence, he opts for a dirty sneak attack, chanting out his basic fireball spell. The rabbit effortlessly hops over the flame, completely mocking his slow-motion attack. Before he can even digest the miss, the rabbit turns around and opens a mouth full of nightmare teeth. Except a blinding blast hits the oversized rodent right in the jaw before it can land a bite. A massive explosion completely obliterates the creature, leaving absolutely nothing behind. He notes the spell's 10-meter explosion radius easily makes up for its slow speed, right as his system confirms a whopping 1% EXP gain from that rabbit. Now that he's got the hang of the skill, it's time to stop messing around and start speed farming levels. He dashes through the dark forest to gather up as much mob aggro as possible. A pack of angry mutated boars takes the bait, rushing in to crush him. Since these low IQ beasts fall for lures so easily, grouping them up is absolute light work. Once they're right where he wants them, he turns around and casts his basic fireball. The flaming orb descends straight into the middle of the charging herd. A massive blast detonates on impact, instantly turning the entire pack into quick experience points. Wiping out 16 mutated creatures in one hit instantly boosts his experience up to 29%. As secondary explosions continue tearing through the forest floor, he officially secures enough EXP to hit level 2. Hitting level 2 triggers his class passives, bumping all stats by 1 and throwing 3 extra points straight into spirit. With his stats refreshed, he notices a brand new affix draw waiting in his system interface. Without hesitating, he calls on the system to pull another golden affix. But when the light clears, he gets hit with the ultimate gotcha scam, the exact same explosion affix he already owns. Before he can complain about duplicate drops, the system detects the copy and hands him a free bonus draw on the spot. The duplicate protection pays off big time, granting him a golden legendary affix called Tenfold, which immediately absorbs into his power pool. Wondering if duplicate affixes can stack, he gets the green light from the system and commands it to fuse the extra explosion affix into Fireball, totally unbothered by the wild monsters creeping up behind him. With the duplicate fused, Fireball levels up to explosion times 2, sending its damage scaling to a ridiculous 300 times multiplier. Chilling by the campfire in the dead of night, and by roast some monster meat to fuel up. Turns out, munching on mutated beast meat actually grants a slow trickle of XP and even boosts his base stats slightly. He's practically cleared out every single monster on this back mountain, yet he only managed to reach level 4. Getting ambushed by a wild bear earlier forced him to equip his affix into the wrong slot in a panic. Fortunately, applying the tenfold affix to a passive skill ended up multiplying his core stats 10 times over, opening up wild new possibilities. On top of that, the no cooldown and instacast affixes he rolled after leveling up twice completely fix Fireball's slow casting speed. To hit level 5, he realizes he needs a fresh grinding spot with way more spawn points. Outside, Dean Jifeng and Old Wang notice the monster clearing speed is suspiciously off the charts, assuming the top students teamed up. Jifeng isn't buying it, but before he can elaborate, a panicked student comes sprinting out screaming for backup. The staff catch the traumatized kid to figure out what's breaking the zone. He blurts out that a massive beast stampede suddenly surged toward the outer edges, almost turning him into pancake mix. Seeing how bad things are, the staff freak out and tell Old Wang to expand the portal immediately so they can pull the surviving kids out. Meanwhile, our guy stands in the middle of nowhere, wondering why there isn't a single soul in sight. Elsewhere, traumatized students sprint for their lives toward the expanding portal, wondering why the local beasts are losing their minds. An absolute tide of red-eyed monsters charges across the terrain in a frantic, unhinged stampede. Standing atop a high cliff, the MC calmly surveys the chaotic dust cloud rising from below. He realizes the back mountain was empty because all the mobs migrated to the outskirts, which is literally just free XP for him to hit level 5. Back at the portal, terrified students start tumbling through to safety while the staff try to keep the extraction point stable. And Bai casually steps through the glowing portal, looking like he just took a light stroll instead of surviving a monster wave. The instructor immediately rushes over, amazed he made it out alive, and asks how he avoided the beast horde. And Bai plays dumb, claiming the horde was magically gone by the time he left. Taking the bait, the teacher tells him to rest up and reminds him that the grand exam is in 10 days, the big test that determines his entire career path. Pulling his green hood down, and Bai realizes the guy couldn't even be bothered to throw a basic appraisal skill on him. Honestly, that's a total win since keeping his true strength hidden is the play. Plus, reaching level 5 unlocks his second skill slot, boosting all stats by 10 and adding 3 to his spirit. To make things even wilder, his gacha luck hits the jackpot, pulling the golden legendary skill affix, Corpse Explosion. Meanwhile, heavy footsteps echo through the area as a mystery figure steps forward. Someone grits their teeth in silent anger, clearly not happy with how things unfolded. The party left behind is thoroughly confused, wondering where on earth all the monsters vanished to. Later that night, he heads over to the Adventurers Association building downtown. Since he's ready to unlock a second skill, he decides to browse around for some skill books. Seeing a 10 grand price tag on a basic tier 1 skill book quickly reminds him that playing a mage is strictly for the rich. Deciding to skip the overpriced skill books, he heads up to the counter to set up a dungeon card instead. The clerk asks if he's one of the freshmen who awakened today, and he casually confirms. The clerk hands over a form, asking for his high school and class details to process the dungeon card. Before he even fills it out, a guy in a bandana calls out his school and class to the entire hall. Half the room starts celebrating while the rest molds in anger, leaving him completely lost. The bandana guy laughs and gives him props for speedrunning his way to level 5 on his very first day. Claiming to be an alumnus from the same high school, he tosses 3 recovery potions onto the counter on the house. Staring at the potions, he finally puts 2 and 2 together and asks if they were literally gambling on him. The guy smirks and confirms they were betting on which high schooler would register first, and betting on a first high mage just paid out big. He thanks the guy for the free loot with a cheeky old man, triggering him since he graduated just 2 years ago. The guy introduces himself as Zhao Ruitian, plugging his level-boosting service in case the kid ever needs a carry. Curious, MC asks if there are any other gambling pools running besides who registered first. Zhao reveals they bet on rookie dungeon picks and clear times, though hanging out together ruins the blind odds. Eyeball NG a potion, MC drops a bombshell, asking for 10-to-1 odds on him clearing a purgatory difficulty dungeon. Zhao literally chokes on his cigarette smoke, warning him that purgatory mode isn't a game for rookies. The kid just stares back with pure, unbothered confidence. Zhao locks eyes, realizing this insane freshman isn't joking at all. Zhao slides the tray forward, asking for his name while dropping a casual reality check. Once this pool opens, the stakes are easily hitting 300 to 500 grand. And Bai sees right through them, casually pointing out they're just afraid he can't foot the bill. He drops his ID, introducing himself as an Bai of the An family from Upper River City, and promising Zhao a sweet cut if he gets things set up. Zhao has never heard of any An family in his life, but figures anyone dropping cash this fast must be from some low-key highborn lineage. And Bai then heads straight for the gate, locking in the level 5 remnants of the Bug Emperor dungeon on purgatory difficulty. Zhao absolutely loses at seeing him pick the hardest mode available, instantly deciding he's gonna cling to this VIP like his life depends on it. With a flash of magic, and Bai teleports straight into the dusty dungeon clearing, ready to handle business solo. The dungeon challenge kicks off with 4 difficulty levels, with purgatory demanding he straight up destroy the bug nest and survive. Without a map to guide him, and Bai decides to just head wherever the bug swarm is thickest, immediately running into a swarm of level 7 gold-winged bugs. And Bai doesn't even flinch as giant armored bugs swarm his position, calmly raising his wand to cast. He instantly detonates a massive fiery explosion, engulfing the entire swarm in pure heat. Noticing the tanky monster survive the outer blast, and Bai coolly prepares to drop a follow-up hit. The scorched bug staggers weakly in midair, barely clinging to life after taking the shockwave. Before it can recover, a violent burst of green energy surges to finish the job for good. And Bai suddenly realizes what's actually going on. That green burst wasn't just a normal hit, it was the effect of corpse explosion. Turns out, in his rush to leave the back mountain, he attached it to his fireball without reading the skill description. Slain enemies violently detonate for max HP plus incoming attack damage. Which means he doesn't even need to spam fireball anymore. He can just sit back and let their bodies trigger a massive automated chain reaction. Right on cue, the skill goes to work, setting off violent explosions all around him. The explosions instantly stack into a chaotic chain reaction, turning the entire zone into a fiery meat grinder. As the green flames clear, and Bai casually strolls out of the apocalyptic aftermath without a scratch. Corpse explosion really is the ultimate mob clearing hack, because even if a wave gets atomized, the survivors just cluster right back together to take their turn in the blender. Before he can celebrate the free EXP, something catches his attention. The smoke clears around a deep fissure nearby, revealing movement deep below. Looking down into the chasm, he spots a horde of giant armored bugs packed tightly together. Honestly, them grouping up like that just saves him the trouble of aiming. The oversized beetles take flight to jump him, but a fireball drops straight down into the pit to greet them. The spell detonates instantly, letting off a massive blast of green energy that vaporizes the horde before they can even get out of the pit. The guy locks in, keeping silent as the tension peaks. Outside, his big bro is stressing over the dungeon screen, praying he pulls through with millions on the line in the betting pool. Meanwhile, another gambler doubles down, tossing an extra 50 grand into the pot, and claiming old Zhao is about to lose his shirt. A blonde girl turns around, sensing something major is about to go down. Suddenly, a server-wide announcement flashes, declaring that Bai just cleared the Bug Emperor dungeon on Purgatory difficulty with an SSS rating at level 5. The entire lobby loses its mind, completely baffled over who this absolute menace Bai even is. The big bro instantly tackles Bai in a wild hug, celebrating the fat bag he just secured while demanding his opponent pay up. With the leaderboard officially shattered, a flash of energy streaks across the distant horizon. Clearing the level 5 dungeon on Purgatory difficulty nets Bai an insane payoff, a purple chest, a gold chest, and a jump straight to level 7. With plus 20 to all attributes, 6 extra spirit, and 2 fresh affix draw opportunities, he's stacking massive gains. Eyeing his glowing loot, Bai wonders what kind of high-tier pulls he's about to score from these first clear rewards. Bai pops open his dungeon chests, lighting up the clearing with high-tier loot. The drops roll in: blood rage pills, nutrient potions, rare bug monster materials, and a shiny Purgatory Walker badge. Checking out the badge, it turns out to be a growth-type item granting plus 10 to all attributes, making him only the 81st person to ever claim it since the Cataclysm. Hyped by the instant stat boost, he equips it immediately and gets ready to spin his 2 gold legendary affix draws. He triggers the system pull, successfully landing 2 absolute top-tier gold legendary skill affixes, Flame and Teleport. Meanwhile, Director Lee is interrogating the top students, trying to figure out if they secretly teamed up or if someone somehow unlocked a nuking skill on day 1. The students quickly deny it, admitting their farming speed was nowhere near that fast and that all the beasts were already wiped out before they even reached the back mountain. Before Director Lee can process that, an assistant comes sprinting over in full panic mode with bad news. Ji Feng dismisses the students, sending them back to grind monsters. When the director asks why he's panicking, Old Wang drops a bombshell. Another school just birthed a total freak who wiped out the Bug Emperor remnants at a mere level 5. Ji Feng is coping hard, venting about how he barely beat Nightmare difficulty at level 9 back in the day. The assistant swears it is true though, dropping the bombshell that Bai cleared Purgatory difficulty in under an hour. Meanwhile, Bai is already speedrunning a new dungeon, casually dropping elite knights and archers. Refusing to waste his 3 free daily runs, he notes these elite mobs are quality over quantity compared to the Bug Emperor dungeon. 0 time wasted, he presses deeper into the catacombs to maximize his daily grind. An elite black iron archer locks onto him from above, unleashing a barrage of sharp projectiles down his way. Bai casually weaves through the incoming slashes, effortlessly dodging the deadly wind blades. However, one of the arrows barely catches the edge of his cloak, tearing right through the fabric. Not letting that slide, he closes the distance instantly and obliterates the archer, officially wiping out the level 6 elite. Chugging a health potion to patch up his HP, he mentally notes that buying a proper defensive skill book is moving straight to the top of his shopping list once he leaves. With that room cleared, he strolls deeper into the eerie, bat-filled catacombs toward the massive set of doors ahead. He keeps pressing forward through the echoing corridor, completely unfazed by the swarm of bats flying around. Finally, he steps into a massive chamber where a gigantic hammer hangs from the ceiling, signaling the real fight is right around the corner. He steps firmly into the room, fully locked in for whatever comes next. And Bai steps into the chamber just as a colossal warhammer drops into view with crushed metal energy. The heavy slam sends a shockwave roaring through the entrance hall right as he arrives. Feeling the absurd pressure in the air, and Bai realizes he's locked into a full-on boss room. A giant gauntlet hand tightly grips the massive weapon's shaft. The level 7 black iron giant king fully awakens, roaring in fury at whoever dared to ruin its nap. Without giving him a second to breathe, the boss swings a massive full-screen cleave straight at him. And Bai quickly realizes the cramped room and the boss's insane attack range mean dodging forever isn't an option. Since defense is a dead end, he dashes straight in to end this fight with a single clean blow. A heavy explosion detonates directly against the armored giant's body. Unfazed by the blast, the heavy brute roars in anger, enraged that a mere bug actually managed to hurt him. Seeing his spell fail to pierce the tank's insane defense, and Bai decides to play it smart and kite the slow-moving giant from a distance. That plan ages like milk when the giant uses the delayed explosions behind him as a literal rocket booster, leaving Bai in sheer horror. Closing the distance in a flash, the monster smashes his massive weapon directly into the ground. A violent sequence of blasts follows the slam, utterly pulverizing the entire area. Heavy smoke and shattered stone rain down across the ruined battleground. Barely managing to dodge in time, and Bai catches his breath behind cover, realizing the boss literally used his own delayed spell mechanics against him. Right on cue, and Bai locks in with a sudden lightbulb moment as he figures out the boss's gimmick. Time to cook. And Bai orders the system to slap the flame affix onto his basic class and attach teleport directly to his fireball. A teleporting fireball spawns out of nowhere, blasting right into the middle of a bat swarm. He sets off a chain of strategic explosions, hurting the bat monster's flight path right where he needs them. The second the swarm lines up directly above the heavy armored boss, and Bai calls the timing. A massive mid-air detonation erupts, sending a rain of dead bat corpses crashing straight onto the boss. With the bodies piling up right on target, and Bai sets up his follow-up move, Corpse Explosion. He channels the energy into a hyper-concentrated burst to detonate the entire corpse stack at once. His big brain skill micro pays off, leveling up his basic fireball proficiency, and handing him a free 10-point base damage boost. The chain detonation hits right on target, sending the creature shrieking in absolute agony as the energy rips through it. The giant roars in pure copium, screaming about the glory of his race as he tries to pull off one last desperate attack. Completely unbothered, and Bai just drops a cold next, summoning a massive pillar of light directly onto his head. Since his teleport affix lets him bypass the big guy's attack range entirely, he doesn't even have to play fair. The blast crashes down with zero mercy, completely flattening whatever was left of his opponent. And Bai vaporizes the level 71 black iron giant king on purgatory mode, snagging a mountain of EXP, a purple chest, and a secret purple great shield. The massive XP drop instantly pumps him up to level 8, stacking his stats and granting him another free affix pull. Cracking open the purple chest yields some upgrade materials and a hyper-rare mount pet contract. A mount means no more walking anywhere, plus bonus firepower in battle. Riding the luck high, he rolls the affix gotcha and hits legendary gold tenfold again. Since it's a dupe, the system hands him a free redraw that pulls Crimson Lotus. Realizing Crimson Lotus upgrades flame quality, he stacks tenfold onto his class passive once more and slaps Crimson Lotus onto Fireball. With his Fireball now inflicting unstoppable true burn damage, and Bai calls it a day, planning to sell his junk and grab a spatial ring tomorrow. And Bai drops his ridiculously heavy bag onto the ground with a loud thud. He's completely wiped after clearing every single level 5 dungeon, knowing the next ones won't unlock until he reaches level 10. Suddenly, a random realization hits him out of nowhere. He scrambles up, panicking that the guys running the betting pools might have taken his cut and ghosted him. Before he can spiral, a voice calls out, greeting him as brother in the moment he steps into view. It turns out to be old Zhao, who insists on giving him respect since speedrunning 5 dungeons in one night and shattering every record makes him an absolute legend. Zhao hands over a card loaded with a staggering 1.98 million, having cleaned house on the bets while Anbai was grinding. However, Zhao gives him a low-key warning to watch his back, since half of that fat payout was yanked straight from a sore loser nearby. Zhao warns him about Jiang Lei, a level 20 assassin from the Shadow Assassin Guild who might come looking for payback over his lost cash, but Anbai brushes it off like it's nothing. Before heading out, Anbai casually gifts Zhao all the high-tier monster drops from tonight, leaving the old man holding a literal fortune in complete disbelief. Back at his apartment late that night, Anbai lays out his brand new haul, spatial rings, an amulet, and some essential mage skill books. Blowing 3 million credits just to afford a decent gear set hits hard. Turns out being a mage is an absolute financial sinkhole. Still, hoarding cash is useless unless it gets converted directly into raw combat power. He cracks open the skill book, instantly surrounding himself in a swarm of glowing golden runes. He unlocks basic telekinetic shield, a skill that lets him bind shield-type gear to gain extra defense, and a barrier scaled off his spirit stat. It's the ideal defensive buff to cover his squishy glass cannon build, making that shield drop from his recent dungeon run super clutch. He activates telekinetic shield to bind the gear, though honestly, he's still pretty salty he couldn't drag out the Giant King's massive coffin lid to use instead. Anbai locks in his new defense buff, calling it essential insurance for his upcoming trip past the city walls. He arrives at the massive gates separating the safe zone from the straight-up lethal wilderness outside. Before he can step through, the guards immediately drop their weapons to block his path. They look at his stats in disbelief, asking if a level 8 basic mage actually thinks he's surviving out there solo. Anbai casually steps up, completely unfazed as he reaches into his cloak to pull out his pass. Anbai drops 10 grand for the exit fee, getting a quick reminder from the guard to hit the emergency SOS button if he gets cooked. As he steps through the portal, the guards warn him to haul it back before sunset, when night buffs turn every monster berserk. 100 miles surrounding the city is a total war zone, accessible only through short-range teleportation arrays. Post-cataclysm mutation turned even the local plant life lethal enough to erase any evidence of your body. With electronics completely dead, Anbai praises the system for keeping him from getting permanently lost. Deep in the brush, starving goblins panic about missing their food quota and becoming their king's next meal. Spotting a human nearby, the level 11 goblin squad gets hype, plotting to drag the novice back as a snack. Observing from above, Anbai notes his basic identify skill can only pull high-level stat summaries on the mobs. Done wasting time, Anbai declares it's officially time to start the grind. He unleashes a massive spell, completely nuking the area in a blinding explosion. A battered goblin panics the second he realizes a human mage is standing over him. He's completely losing it, wondering why such a terrifying monster is out in the wild. Instead of ending him, Anbai tells the mob to run back and lead him straight to their camp. The survivor scrambles to his base, screaming warnings that a human mage has invaded. He alerts the camp, frantic for everyone to kill the human on sight. Anbai casually strolls into their lair, practically dripping dark aura. A giant goblin with glowing red eyes sounds the war horn to rally the troops. But before they can even set up, a giant explosion obliterates their outpost. A massive horde of red-eyed goblins comes swarming out, cackling like absolute maniacs as they prepare to jump him. The goblin swarm immediately locks onto Anbai, firing arrows and rushing him at full speed. Their volley hits a golden barrier head-on, completely shattering upon impact without doing a thing. Anbai chillax behind his telekinetic shield, flexing the absolute flex that he took 0 damage. Refusing to take the L, a massive goblin rears back and swings its heavy axe with all its strength. The weapon slams into the shield with a heavy clash, dealing a whopping total of -1 damage. The goblin loses its mind in complete disbelief, unable to process his ridiculous defense. Anbai offers a cheeky apology while casually charging up his counterattack behind the barrier. A massive explosion erupts right in their faces, instantly wiping out the entire goblin squad. The spell takes hold of the corpses, lighting up their veins in volatile green as they swell up. Chain corpse explosion goes off, triggering a rapid-fire sequence of green detonations that completely obliterates the horde. Nearby rogue players freeze in place as massive detonations rumble through the forest. One guy freaks out, convinced some high-tier mage lord is carpet-bombing the entire zone with a tier 3 flame burst. Meanwhile, Anbai stands completely unfazed as residual shockwaves crack the air around a giant runic barrier. Behind the pink light, a red-eyed goblin soldier locks eyes on him with lethal intent. The goblins rally their force, shouting to take down the humans so their great king will reward them handsomely. With a screeching war cry, the entire squad lunges at Anbai simultaneously from every angle. Anbai gives them credit for actual coordination, before reminding them that teamwork is a total joke in the face of raw power. He triggers instant cast, dropping a barrage of golden blasts that immediately sends the entire squad flying. Anbai casually lets a golden blade slice through an attacking goblin without even looking. With a sweep of his staff, he unleashes a massive golden AoE burst. The attack completely levels the goblin settlement into smoking ruins. The system confirms 34 goblins wiped out and a bump to level 8, leaving him pretty pleased with the speedrun. While eyeing the pile of dropped gold and gear, a glowing purple gem catches his attention. Examining a glowing purple crystal, Anbai notes it fetches a smooth 1,000 yuan per gram back home, a total flex only top-tier elites can afford. Sure, combat classes are high risk, but the speed at which they print money leaves lifestyle classes in the absolute dust. Recalling the goblin's last words about a great king, he realizes an even bigger monster camp is waiting out there and sets off to find it. While wrapping up a fight with a giant green monster, Nia gets called over by his accomplice. His partner asks if this is the target from yesterday, and Nia bitterly confirms it, complaining that the kid cost him his squad leader rank and left him $1 million in debt. His buddy suggests taking out the level 9 kid right then and there, but Nia warns him off, claiming the target belongs to the powerful Bai family. Unaware of the stalkers, Anbai celebrates, finally hitting level 10, stacking up new class passives and stat boosts before deciding to find a safe spot for the night. The duo decides to tail him away from the city defense force, though one of them starts wondering if there's even a noble Bai family in Shangjiang City to begin with. Having found a quiet cave to set up camp for the night, Anbai finally gets a moment of privacy. Sitting by the campfire, he commands the system to pull 2 new affixes. The gacha wheel spins, locking onto a gold affix alongside a deep, glowing red card. System notifications confirm he landed the gold legendary affix explosion and a red mythic affix, death-sparing substitute, catching him completely off guard. He stares at the rank hierarchy in sheer disbelief, having never even heard of a mythic tier existing above legendary. Slightly disappointed it's just an affix rather than a standalone skill, he immediately starts scheming how to maximize its output. He slaps the death-sparing substitute onto a passive skill, unlocking a cheat code revive that grants full restoration, invulnerability, and an escape teleport, realizing that by level 100, he'll practically have 90 extra lives. Out of nowhere, a projectile comes flying in, forcing Anbai to throw up his defensive shield just in time. The attacker mocks him from above, asking why a rich young master is out here farming monsters without any bodyguards. Dropping the fake pleasantries, the guy demands Anbai hand over all the cash he won yesterday if he wants to walk away breathing. Anbai calls him out for straight-up robbery, asking if he's really not afraid of the city defense force pulling up to arrest him. But the mugger already ran the math. It'll take 5 minutes for the guards to arrive, and Anbai won't last that long. His goon chimed in, telling his boss to stop yapping so they can just jump him already. Hearing it's just the 3 of them and 5 minutes before anyone interrupts, Anbai drops the scared act with a smirk. That's more than enough time to handle business. The mugger charges in, screaming that a solo mage is basically free loot waiting to get wiped in under 5 minutes. Before he can even finish his villain monologue, a massive fire spell erupts right in his face. A ridiculous explosion tears through the ground, instantly swallowing the attacker in a wave of raw firepower. His high-tier protective amulet snaps under the heat, barely clutching the survival check for him. Gassed out on the scorched earth, he's losing his mind that a level 10 archer just forced him to waste his most expensive defensive item. As the smoke clears, mana swirls around a super unfazed Anbai. Casual as ever with his staff over his shoulder, Anbai drops the real talk. The plan wasn't bad, but the power gap was just way too wide. Looking up in sheer horror, the guy finally connects the dots. The mystery powerhouse who dropped that Tier 3 flame burst earlier wasn't by the entire time. Panicking, the guy desperately tries to play dumb, capping that Anbai must have the wrong person since he doesn't even know any Tier 3 skills. But his cheap excuses don't save him as he's instantly engulfed in a massive wave of fire, screaming in sheer agony as he gets cooked alive. The smoke clears, leaving behind nothing but shattered ground and lingering purple sparks. And by casually notes that chain corpse explosion is actually the ultimate crime scene cleanup tool for deleting all evidence. He starts walking away, completely unaware of the ominous shadow creeping up right behind his heels. Suddenly, a lethal shadowy blade bursts out from the floor in a surprise shadow assassination attack. The blade pierces straight through Inbai's chest, taking him completely off guard. As he stands frozen in shock, a hooded figure materializes right behind him with a sinister laugh. The rogue gloats that the guy Inbai just vaporized was merely a shadow clone, flexing how a level 20 veteran always keeps extra lives on deck. Standing over Inbai's fallen body, the assassin moves in to loot his gear, ready to claim all his high-tier loot for himself. Just as the assassin reaches down to loot him, Inbai triggers a counter trap, bursting with golden light. Standing back up completely fine, Inbai acknowledges that level 20 assassins really do have annoying gimmicks. Without missing a beat, he unleashes a wave of scorching fire that completely incinerates the shadow clone. Admitting his death-sparing substitute barely saved his life, Inbai decides logic dictates firing off even more explosions in case there are extra clones lurking around. The insane overkill obliterates the cave system entirely, leaving zero room for anything to survive. With even the guy's spatial ring blown to absolute pieces and loot spilling everywhere, Inbai confirms the assassin is finally cooked for good. Sweeping up the scattered drop items, he reminds himself that in this world, other players and their absurd skill sets are always the real threat. Inbai realizes his telekinetic shield won't cover everything, making his death-sparing substitute skill his real clutch card, meaning he needs to grind levels ASAP. Suddenly, a mysterious purple light starts pulsing from the cracked earth right where the explosion went off. He immediately hits the glowing anomaly with basic identified to inspect what he just unearthed. Turns out it's a one-time secret realm called Demon King's Burial Ground, capped at level 20 and strictly requiring 4 players. He didn't expect his overkill spell to literally nuke a whole secret realm into existence. He hops down onto the magic formation to inspect it directly. Since it takes 4 people to enter, he instantly rules out random classmates. Trusting randoms is just asking to get griefed for loot. So he shoots a message straight to old Zhao to pull up with a party before anyone else catches wind. En's buddy arrives at the dungeon entrance, calling out to locate him in the rocky terrain. Inbai casually greets him, noting he finally pulled up. He explains he got held up by some trouble on the way and brought his sister and her classmate along to check out the secret realm. Zhao Jiqing is a level 5 tier 3 defense class, while her classmate Xiying is a level 4 tier 3 combat class. Inbai keeps it cool, welcoming the newcomers and telling them to just call him Inbai. Inbai leads the squad to the cave entrance, announcing they've officially arrived at the secret realm. He drops the breakdown on them. It's a multiplayer realm, so they just need to walk in behind him and pocket a free 10% loot cut without lifting a finger. His classmate asks if Inbai was the one getting carried, but her brother admits they're literally just NPC filler to meet the party size requirement. Before stepping in, the warrior waves his experience share, explaining he's already hit the level 20 cap so the extra EXP is useless. Violent purple energy surges as the system warps the entire team straight into the dungeon. They spawn into a desolate, eerie wasteland dominated by a giant glowing moon floating overhead. The shield warrior immediately freaks out from the spooky vibe and hides behind her massive shield, leaving Inbai to realize she picked a max defense tank build purely because she's terrified of getting hurt. A glowing blue skeleton hand bursts right out of the cracked earth. An army of blue skeletons starts crawling out of the dirt, led by a menacing armored swordsman. The stats drop. A level 15 purple elite unit with 28,000 HP and beefy attack stats roars into the air. Seeing this monstrosity, the party instantly panics, doubting if a level 10 mage can actually solo a purple elite. Meanwhile, Inbai is genuinely thrilled, loving the crazy high difficulty right off the bat. Still, he reminds himself to keep his broken skill affixes hidden from his teammates. He chants a fake spell out loud and unleashes a fireball right toward the incoming undead mob. The fireball slams directly into the elite skeleton swordsman's skull with devastating force. The elite skeleton's glowing blue skull goes rolling across the ground like a heavy bowling ball. The party completely loses their minds after watching a level 10 basic mage drop a fireball that hits like a tactical nuke. Inbai stays low-key, confident no one can figure out his affix cheat as long as the corpses stay intact. He keeps firing into the horde, noting that while there aren't many skeletons, Every single mob is an elite. Watching him incinerate the entire room, the party copes by convincing themselves he must be a high-level smurf holding his rank back. Their leader instantly shatters that cope, reminding them that Anbai literally awakened his class yesterday just like them. Hit with the ultimate reality check, she starts having an existential crisis over how the gap between humans can be wider than between a person and a dog. When the tank asks if that means they're literally worse than dogs, she gets told to shut up immediately. The leader orders everyone to pick up the pace so they don't drag down their carry before reaching the boss. Another mob gets instantly deleted, leaving behind pure loot and free XP. The kill pushes Anbai to level 11, unleashing massive stat boosts, extra fire affinity, and bonus spirit. He tells the squad to sweep up the drop materials before they keep pushing forward. His teammate happily takes over the grunt work, telling Anbai to chill while lugging around a mountain of loot. Anbai calls on his system to draw an affix, instantly pulling a gold legendary affix named High Probability. Pondering if it boosts drop rates after kills, he decides to slap it on his only offensive spell, Fireball. The affix locks in clean, permanently upgrading Fireball's drop chances. With everything packed safely into a spatial ring, his teammate asks if they should divide the hall now. Anbai tells the crew to lock in and clear the dungeon first before worrying about splitting the hall. They roll up to a creepy graveyard dungeon where the only sound is dead leaves rustling over forgotten tombs. The squad navigates carefully through the foggy cemetery, keeping their weapons ready. Seeing another coffin on the path, Anbai gets heavy déjà vu from their last dungeon run. The ancient stone coffin sits in dead silence, radiating pure bad omen vibes. Right on cue, the coffin lid violently shatters open in a burst of frosty energy. The sudden blast completely catches his armored teammate off guard, leaving her shrieking as debris flies straight at her. Out manifests the cursed Demon King, a purple rank boss packing a massive 100,000 HP. It might have zero base attack and defense, but its curse and summoning capabilities are completely broken. Recognizing the high-level nightmare in front of them, one of the hunters instantly panics. The giant skull exhales a thick cloud of spectral cyan mist, engulfing the entire battleground. With visibility dropping to absolute zero, someone yells out a warning to hold the line. Anbai is completely caught off guard, left utterly stunned as the situation instantly goes south. A horde of shrieking skull wraiths engulfed in cyan fire floods the battlefield, swarming everything in sight.